The living world, evolution of biodiversity. This unit describes biodiversity of Earth and how it came to be, and how environmental factors can cause and influence its decline. So biodiversity can be described as at a genetic level, at a species level, and then at an ecosystem level. All right, the living world, biodiversity, how evolution creates biodiversity. How evolution creates biodiversity, part 1. 1.2. Evolution also takes place through a natural mechanism that we call evolution by natural selection. And this, the environment determines an individual's ability to survive and reproduce. So members of a population naturally vary in their traits. There are certain combinations of those traits that make one individual more able to survive and reproduce than others. And as a result of this, the genes that are produced by those traits are more common in the next generation. Charles Darwin is perhaps better known as the father of evolution. At age 22, he became a naturalist on board the HMS Beagle, which was a British ship that sailed around the world between the years of 1831 and 1836. During his journey, Darwin made lots of observations of traits of variation across a tremendous variety of species. In addition to observing these organisms, he found lots of fossil evidence of a large number of extinct species. He also recognized that organisms produce many more offspring than are needed to actually replace just their parents, and that most of these offspring didn't survive. Darwin questioned why, out of all the species that had once existed on Earth, why only a small fraction had survived. And he wondered why. So during the decades that followed this voyage, he basically developed his ideas into this very robust theory in a book that was published. It's on the origin of species by means of natural selection. It was published in 1859, and it basically changed the way people thought about the natural world. Darwin had some key theory ideas on evolution by natural selection. Individuals produce an excess of offspring. Not all the offspring survive. Individuals differ in their traits. Differences in these traits can be passed from one parent to their offspring. And differences in traits are associated with differences in ability to survive and reproduce. This figure shows the process at work using an example of body size in a group of very tiny crustaceans we call amphipods. So we can begin, the parents produce an offspring and they vary in body size. Okay, the largest offspring are consumed by fish first because fish prefer to eat larger prey that they can see rather than small prey. And so as a result, smaller offspring are left to produce. And now because body size is part of determining an individual's genes, then the next generation of these amphipods will be smaller. And this process continues over many generations. Over time, the fish will cause the evolution of smaller body sizes to be predominant in amphipods. So both an artificial and natural selection begin with a requirement that an individual all individuals, they vary in their traits, and that these variations are capable of being passed on to the next generation. Natural selection does not select for specific traits that tend to towards some predetermined goal, but rather the natural selection favors any combination of traits that improve an individual's fitness. And it's a ability to survive and reproduce, like we saw in the case of the amphipods. So surviving predation by fish is a fitness. Traits that improve an individual's fitness are collectively called adaptations. So besides these fish, we can have another example. So all plants living in the desert, they face the same challenge of this low water availability in the soil. So different species have evolved different solutions to this same challenge. Some species have evolved large terrapoons that draw water from deep within the soil, and other species have evolved the ability to actually store water when it actually does rain. So still, although all these species have evolved a waxy, hairy surface that you see like on cactuses that reduce water loss. So each of these is a very different adaptation that allows the plant to survive and reproduce in the exact same environment and conditions.